The night was quiet in Millfield, Nebraska. Most people were asleep, but not John Mason. He drove his old blue pickup truck down the empty road that led to his small house on the edge of town. John had just finished his late shift at the factory, where he worked making car parts. He was tired. His eyes wanted to close, but he kept them open. He had to get home. The road was dark except for his headlights and the stars above. John liked these quiet drives. They gave him time to think. Since his wife Linda died 3 years ago and his daughter Penny went away to college, he spent a lot of time alone with his thoughts. John turned the radio up. An old country song played softly. He hummed along, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Then he saw something strange. At first, it was just a faint blue light in the distance. It flickered like a candle but was much brighter. As John got closer, he slowed down his truck. The blue light was coming from the ditch on the side of the road. What in the world? John whispered to himself. He pulled over and turned off his engine. The night was silent again except for the sound of crickets and the soft ping of his cooling truck engine. John reached into his glove box and pulled out a flashlight. He always kept one there, along with a small toolkit and a first aid box. Linda had taught him to be prepared. John stepped out of his truck. The night air was cool on his face. He walked slowly toward the blue light, his boots crunching on the gravel at the road's edge. As he got closer, the blue glow became brighter and seemed to pulse with a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. When John reached the ditch, he pointed his flashlight down and gasped. There, lying on her side in the tall grass, was a girl. But she was unlike any girl John had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with a silvery glow, and what looked like hair was actually thousands of tiny, crystal-like strands that caught the moonlight and broke it into countless colors. Her clothes were strange too, like liquid metal that flowed around. Her body, the blue light was coming from a small cube next to her. It was about the size of a baseball and covered in strange symbols that John had never seen before. They looked like no language he knew. John stood frozen for a moment. His first thought was to call for help, but something stopped him. The girl clearly wasn't human. If he called the police or an ambulance, who knew what would happen to her? They might take her away to be studied. John had seen enough movies to know how that usually ended. He knelt down beside her. She was breathing, but the breaths were short and quick. Her eyes were closed, and her face looked peaceful despite the situation. John noticed she had small, delicate features, almost like a porcelain doll, but with an otherworldly beauty. "Hello?" John said softly. "Can you hear me?" The girl didn't respond. John reached out and gently touched her shoulder. Her skin felt smooth and cool, not cold like metal as it appeared, but not quite like human skin either. John looked up and down the empty road. No one was around. He looked up at the sky, half expecting to see some kind of spaceship, but there was nothing unusual, just stars and a half moon. He had to make a decision. He couldn't leave her here, that was for sure, and he couldn't call the authorities, not yet anyway. Not until he understood more about what was happening. Very carefully, John slid his arms under the strange girl. She was surprisingly light, almost as if she were hollow inside. He lifted her from the ditch and carried her to his truck. With some difficulty, he managed to open the passenger door while still holding her. After settling her in the seat, John went back for the glowing cube. He wasn't sure if it was important, but it seemed connected to the girl somehow. He picked it up carefully. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse faster when he held it, as if it were responding to him. John placed the cube on the girl's lap and closed the passenger door. He walked around to the driver's side, got in, and sat there for a moment, wondering if he was making a huge mistake. "Well," he said to himself, "I guess we'll find out." He started the truck and drove toward home. As he drove, he glanced at his unusual passenger. In the dim light of the dashboard, her silvery skin gave off a soft glow. John wondered who she was and where she had come from. Was she really an alien? It seemed impossible, and yet there she was. John's house was a small, two-bedroom place on 2 acres of land. It was far enough from neighbors that no one would notice his strange visitor. He pulled into his gravel driveway and turned off the engine. The girl hadn't moved during the drive. John carried her inside through the living room and into the spare bedroom that used to be Penny's room before she left for college. He laid the girl gently on the bed and placed the glowing cube on the knitstand. Now that they were in better light, John could see more details. The girl appeared young, maybe in her 20s by human standards. Her face was peaceful, but there was a small cut on her forehead that seemed to leak. A silvery liquid instead of blood. John went to the bathroom and got a clean washcloth. He wet it with warm water and came back to the spare room. Carefully, he cleaned the cut on the girl's forehead. The silvery liquid wiped away easily, and to John's surprise, the cut seemed to be closing already, healing much faster than a human. "Woundwood, who are you?" John whispered, not expecting an answer. The cube on the knitstand pulsed brighter for a moment. As if in response to his question, John pulled a chair from the corner of the room and sat down next to the bed. He should be exhausted. It was nearly 2 a.m., and he had worked a 12-hour shift, but he felt wide awake. How could he sleep at a time like this? Outside the window, a shooting star streaked across the sky. But it moved strangely, not in a straight line like normal shooting stars. It seemed to zigzag, as if searching for something. Then it disappeared. John didn't know it, but high above Earth, hidden by advanced technology, a massive ship was scanning the ground. Inside the ship, tall figures with silvery skin moved with urgent purpose. They had lost something precious, something that was never supposed to touch Earth soil, and they were determined to get it back. In his small house on the edge of Millfield, John Mason watched over the unconscious alien girl, unaware that his act of kindness had just changed his life and possibly the future of human civilization forever. The girl's chest rose and fell with steady breaths now. The blue cube pulsed in rhythm with her breathing. Outside, the night was quiet again, but somewhere in the vast darkness above, someone was looking for her, and they were getting closer. 3 days passed, and the alien girl did not wake up. John stayed home from work, calling in sick for the first time in 5 years. He sat by her bedside, changing the cool cloth on her forehead and watching the steady rise and fall of her chest. The blue cube continued to pulse, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but it never stopped glowing. John tried to go about his normal life during these 3 days. He cooked simple meals in the kitchen, though he ate them in the spare bedroom while watching over his strange guest. He called his daughter Penny at college, careful not to mention anything about the girl. He even watered the plants in the small garden that Linda had started years ago and that he still kept alive in her memory, but nothing felt normal anymore. Not with a silver-skinned alien sleeping in his house on the morning of the 4th day. John was dozing in the chair beside the bed when a strange clicking sound woke him. His eyes flew open. The alien girl was awake. She was sitting up in bed, her back pressed against the headboard, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her eyes were open wide, beautiful, iridescent orbs with vertical pupils like a cat's. She was making those clicking sounds with her mouth, and her face showed clear fear. "It's okay," John said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe here." The girl tilted her head, the crystal strands of her hair tinkling softly with the movement. She said something, but the sounds were like nothing John had ever heard, musical and strange, with tones that seemed to overlap. Then the cube on the knitstand glowed brighter. A small device on the girl's neck that John hadn't noticed before pulsed in response. When she spoke again, John understood her words, though they had an odd echo to them, as if she were speaking from inside a cave. "Where am I? Who are you?" she asked, her voice musical even through the translation. "My name is John Mason," he said slowly. "You're in my home in Millfield, Nebraska." "On Earth," he added, thinking she might not know what Nebraska meant. "I found you 3 nights ago on the side of the road." "You were hurt." The girl's strange eyes blinked rapidly. She looked around the room, taking in the simple furniture, the faded blue curtains, the old family photos on the wall. "Earth," she repeated. "This was not my destination." John nodded. "I figured as much. You're not exactly from around here, are you?" A sound came from the girl that might have been a laugh. "No, I am not." She placed a hand on her chest. "I am called ... She made a musical sound that John knew he could never repeat. But your translator may call me Lyra. It is close enough. Lyra, John repeated. That's a pretty name. Are you feeling better now? You had a cut on your forehead, but it seemed to heal quickly. Lyra touched her forehead where the cut had been. Yes, my kind heals faster than humans. Thank you for helping me. John Mason. Just John is fine, he said, and you're welcome. Can you tell me what happened? How you ended up in that ditch? Lyra's face grew serious. She reached for the cube, which glowed brighter at her touch. I was traveling on a merchant vessel. We trade between worlds, learning the routes. She paused, seeming to choose her words. Carefully, I am what you might call an apprentice. Learning the family business? So you're not the first of your kind to visit Earth? John asked, surprised. No, Lyra said. We have observed Earth for many cycles. But we do not interfere. Your world is still developing. John wasn't sure whether to be relieved or offended by that description. There was an attack, Lyra continued. Raiders, they came out of nowhere. The captain put me in an escape pod, but something went wrong. I remember the pod shaking violently, then nothing until I woke up here. John nodded, taking it all in. These raiders ... will they come looking for you? Lyra looked down at her hands. I do not know, perhaps, but they may think I died in the crash. And your people? Will they come looking for you? Yes, Lyra said without hesitation. They will search. But this system is far from our normal routes. It may take time for them. To find me, John stood up. You must be hungry. Can you eat our food? Is it safe for you? Lyra glanced at the cube. This device helps me. It creates a field that makes your atmosphere and nutrients compatible with my biology. Without it, I would become very sick within days. Then we better keep it close, John said. Let me get you something to eat and some clean clothes. Those metal ones you're wearing must be uncomfortable. Lyra looked down at her liquid metal clothing. They adapt to the wearer. They are quite comfortable. But I would like to try Earth clothes if you have some to spare. John went to his bedroom and found some of Penny's old clothes that she had left behind. A pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt with the name of her high school on it. They would be too big for Lyra, but better than nothing. When he returned, Lyra was standing by the window, looking out at the morning sun shining on the fields behind John's house. In the daylight, her silvery skin had a subtle rainbow sheen to it, like the surface of a soap bubble. It's beautiful here, she said without turning around. So much open space, so much light. It's just fields, John said, placing the clothes on the bed. Nothing special, Lyra turned to him. On my world, open spaces are rare. We build upward and downward. The surface is mostly covered by cities now. Sounds crowded, John said. It can be, Lyra agreed, but it is home. She looked sad for a moment, then covered it with a smile. Now you mentioned food? Over the next few days, John helped Lyra learn about Earth. He showed her how to use the bathroom, how to operate the TV, and how to cook simple meals. She was a quick learner and fascinated by everything. She especially loved watching old movies that John had on DVD. Asking endless questions about human customs and expressions she didn't understand. In return, Lyra told John about her world. A planet called Navari Prime, with its towering crystal cities and vast underground networks. She described the 3 moons that lit up their night sky and the ring system that cast colorful shadows during certain seasons. What Lyra didn't tell John was her true identity. She wasn't just any apprentice. She was the daughter of the High Council leader, sent away on the merchant vessel for her protection during a political conflict. The raiders weren't random pirates. They were assassins sent to eliminate her. And now, both the assassins and her father's loyal followers were searching for her across the stars, their paths converging on a small blue planet called Earth and a quiet little town named Millfield. 2 weeks passed since Lyra had arrived in John's life. Spring was turning to summer in Millfield, and the days grew longer and warmer. John had returned to work at the factory, telling his boss that his sick days were due to a bad case of the flu. Lyra stayed at the house, learning about Earth from TV shows and books that John brought home from the town library when John was at work. Lyra spent hours in the backyard, feeling the sun on her silvery skin and watching the birds with wonder. She had never seen creatures like them on her world. She especially liked the red cardinals that visited the bird feeder John had set up years ago for Linda one afternoon. John came home earlier than usual. His face looked worried as he hurried into the house. "We might have a problem," he said. To Lyra, who was sitting on the couch watching a cooking show, Lyra turned off the TV. "What kind of problem?" "There are men in town asking questions, men in black suits with government IDs. John put his lunchbox on the kitchen counter and sat down heavily in his armchair. "My friend Steve at the gas station said they were showing people a picture of a young woman with unusual features. They're saying she's a missing person." Lyra's iridescent eyes widened. "They are looking for me." "That's what I figured," John said. "But how would they know you're here?" Lyra picked up her cube from the coffee table. It pulsed with a steady blue light. "This device gives off a small energy signature. It's normally not detectable by Earth technology, but what? If someone knew what to look for, they might find it." She looked troubled. "John, these men may not be from your government." "What do you mean?" "The raiders who attacked our ship. Some of them have technology that lets them look human. They might have tracked my escape pod to Earth." John rubbed his face with his hands. "So we could have alien assassins disguised as government agents looking for you?" "That's just great." The phone rang, making them both jump. John answered it cautiously. "Hello? John, it's Kathy." Kathy Bennett was the town sheriff and had been John's friend since they were kids. "I need to talk to you." "It's important." "I'm kind of busy right now, Kath. It's about those federal agents in town." Kathy cut him off. "Something's not right about them. They claim to be FBI, but I called a buddy of mine who works for the real FBI. He's never heard of their division." John's heart beat faster. "What do they want?" "They say they're investigating reports of a meteor that fell near town 2 weeks ago, the same night you found your niece visiting from out of state." John had told people in town that Lyra was his niece who was staying with him for a while. With her strange appearance, he had said she had a rare skin condition and was sensitive to light, which was why she stayed indoors most of the time. "What makes you think this has anything to do with me?" John asked, trying to sound casual. "Don't play dumb, John Mason," Kathy said. "I've known you too long." These men asked specifically about you and your niece after talking to Bill at the pharmacy where you bought those vitamins and skin creams last week. John looked at Lyra, who was watching him with concern. "Be careful, John," Kathy continued. "These men, the way they move, the way they talk, something's off. And their car has technology in it I've never seen before." After hanging up, John told Lyra about the conversation. "We need to leave," Lyra said immediately. "It's not safe for you if they find me here." "Where would we go?" John asked. Lyra walked to the window and looked out at the setting sun. "Do you have somewhere far from here? Somewhere no one would think to look for you?" John thought for a moment. "My brother Paul had a cabin in the mountains in Colorado. He left it to me when he died last year. I haven't been there since, but it should still be in good condition." "Is it isolated?" "Very. The nearest town is 20 miles away, and the cabin is up a dirt road that's hard to find if you don't know." "It's there." Lyra nodded. "That would be good. I can continue trying to fix my communication device there. I've been working on it while you're at work. If I can get it working, I might be able to contact my father's people." "Your father's people?" John raised an eyebrow. "You never mentioned your father before." Lyra looked down. "There are things I haven't told you, John. Things that might put you in more danger if you knew them." "I think we're past that point now," John said. "If we're going to be on the run together, I need to know what we're up against." Lyra sighed. "You're right." She sat down on the couch. "My father is not just a merchant. He is the leader of the High Council of Navari, our ruling body. I am his only child." John stared at her. "You're like ... the princess?" Lyra smiled slightly. "We don't use that term, but yes, something like that." There was a political conflict. A group tried to take control from my father. He sent me away on the merchant ship for safety, but they found out. The raiders who attacked us were sent to kill me. And now they've followed you to Earth, John said, understanding at last. Double quotes. Yes, and they won't stop until they find me. Lyra's face was grim. I'm sorry I brought this danger to you. John shook his head. Don't be. I chose to help you that night, and I'm not sorry I did. He stood up. We should pack and leave tonight after dark. They spent the next hour gathering supplies. John packed clothes, food, and his old hunting rifle. Lyra carefully packed her cube and the broken pieces of her communication device. As they were loading the truck, they heard a car coming down the long driveway. Get inside, John whispered urgently. Hide in the cellar. There's an old door behind the shelves that leads to a storm shelter. Linda insisted we have it built when we bought the place. Go there and don't come out until I come for you. Lyra grabbed her things and ran back into the house. John stood by his truck, trying to look casual as a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up. Two men in dark suits got out. They looked human, but there was something strange about their movements, too smooth and precise. John Mason? One of them asked. His voice had an odd flatness to it. Double quotes. Yes, John replied. Can I help you? We're with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the man said, showing an ID that looked real enough. We're investigating a meteorite impact in this area. May we come inside and ask you a few questions? John noticed that the second man was scanning the area with a small device partly hidden in his palm. It wasn't like any technology John had seen before. Actually, I was just heading out, John said. My sister is in the hospital in Lincoln. I got the call an hour ago. The first man smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. This won't take long, Mr. Mason. We have reason to believe you may have found something unusual recently. Something that doesn't belong here. As he spoke, the second man's scanner began to blink rapidly. He looked at his partner and nodded slightly. John knew then that they had detected Lyra's cube. These weren't FBI agents. They weren't even human, and they knew exactly what they were looking for. John looked at the two men standing in his driveway. They appeared human, but their eyes were too still, their smiles too perfect. The scanner in the second man's hand kept blinking, pointing toward the house where Lyra was hiding. I really need to go, John said, trying to stay calm. My sister is waiting for me. The first man stepped closer. We know what you're hiding, John Mason. Give us the Navari girl, and we will leave your planet in peace. John's hand moved slowly toward the door of his truck, where his old baseball bat was tucked beside the seat. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no one here but me. Just then, a police car pulled into the driveway, its lights flashing. Sheriff Kathy Bennett stepped out, her hand resting on her gun. Everything okay here, John? She called out, walking toward them. I was on my way home and thought I'd check. On you. The two men turned to look at Kathy. John saw his chance. He reached into the truck, grabbed the baseball bat, and swung it hard at the back of the first man's head. There was a crack, but not the sound of wood hitting flesh. It was more like hitting metal. The man stumbled forward but didn't fall. When he turned back to John, part of his face had torn, revealing a silvery surface underneath the fake skin. His eyes glowed red now. That was unwise, he said in a voice that no longer sounded human. Kathy pulled her gun. Police! Don't move! The second man moved with impossible speed. One moment he was standing by the SUV, the next he was beside Kathy, grabbing her gun. She fired, but the bullet hit his chest and bounced off with a metallic ping. Run, Kathy! John shouted, swinging the bat again at the first man. This time the man caught the bat and snapped it in half like it was a twig. He grabbed John by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Where is she? The creature demanded. Suddenly, a bright blue flash lit up the yard. Lyra stood in the doorway of the house, her cube held high in her hands. It pulsed with intense light, sending out waves of energy. Let them go, Lyra commanded. Your quarrel is with me, not these humans. The man holding John dropped him to the ground. John gasped for air, his throat burning. Princess Lyra Navorin, the creature said, his disguise now partly melted away to reveal a metal body with glowing red eyes. The usurper sends his regards. Tell Drav that my father still lives, and while he does, the throne will never be his. Lyra said, walking forward, the cube glowing brighter with each step. Kathy had crawled away from the second creature and now helped John to his feet. What is happening? She whispered. Long story, John croaked, his voice rough from being choked. We need to get to my truck. The two creatures were focused on Lyra now, moving toward her with mechanical precision. Lyra held her ground, the cube pulsing faster in her hands. This device is linked to the Royal Guard beacon, Lyra said to the creatures. If I activate it, they will know exactly where I am. How long do you think it would take my father's fleet? To reach Earth? One day, too? Are you prepared for war with the full might of Navari? The creatures hesitated. They looked at each other, seemingly communicating without words. She's bluffing, the first one finally said. The cube is damaged. It can't send a signal that far. Are you willing to take that risk? Lyra asked, her finger hovering over a symbol on the cube. While this standoff continued, John and Kathy inched toward the truck. John had his keys in his pocket. If they could just get to the truck, they might have a chance to escape. The first creature made a sudden move toward Lyra. She pressed the symbol on the cube. Nothing seemed to happen for a moment, then the cube released a pulse of blue energy. That knocked the creatures back several feet. Now, John! Lyra shouted. John and Kathy ran for the truck. John jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine. Kathy got in the passenger side. Lyra ran toward them, the cube still glowing. In her hands, the creatures were getting up, their movements jerky now, as if the pulse had damaged them somehow. The first one reached for Lyra, but she dodged and threw herself into the back of the truck. Go! She yelled. John slammed his foot on the gas pedal. The truck's tires spun in the gravel before finding grip. They shot forward down the driveway. And onto the main road. In the rearview mirror, John could see the creatures standing in his yard, watching them leave. Then they turned and walked back to their black SUV. They're coming after us, John said. What were those things? Kathy asked, her face pale with shock. They looked like men, but they weren't. They're assassins, Lyra said from the back seat, from my world. They use technology to disguise themselves as humans. Kathy turned to look at Lyra, seeing her. Clearly for the first time. Her eyes widened at Lyra's silvery skin and strange eyes. You're not human either, Kathy said. No, Lyra admitted. I'm from a planet called Navari. John found me when my escape pod crashed near town. And those things are trying to kill you? Kathy asked. Lyra nodded. There was a coup attempt on my world. My father is the rightful leader, but his brother Drav tried to take control. My father sent me away for safety, but Drav's assassins found me. John kept driving, heading west toward the highway that would take them to Colorado. Behind them, the black SUV had appeared. On the road, moving fast. They're gaining on us, John said. This old truck can't outrun them. Kathy checked her gun. I have 5 bullets left, not that they did much good. Your weapons can't hurt them, Lyra said. Their bodies are made of a metal alloy that's nearly indestructible. Then what do we do? John asked. Lyra looked at her cube. It was still glowing. A fainter now, as if the energy pulse had weakened it. I need to finish repairing my communication device. If I can contact my father's fleet, they can help us. She looked up at John. How far is this cabin? About 8 hours of driving, John said. If we can make it that far? The SUV was getting closer. John could see it clearly in his mirror now, only about 100 yards behind them. We need to lose them before we get to the highway, Kathy said. I know these back roads better than anyone. Take a right at the next crossing. John followed Kathy's directions, turning onto a narrow dirt road that cut through a cornfield. The truck bounced along the rough surface, its old suspension creaking in protest. The SUV followed them. But it was lower to the ground than John's truck and struggled more with the bumpy road. There's an old bridge up ahead, Kathy said. It's barely standing. The county was supposed to tear it down last year, but they never got around to it. It might hold us, but that heavy SUV ... double quote, John understood her plan. Will it collapse under their weight? Maybe, Kathy said. It's our best shot. They approached the bridge, a rusted metal structure spanning a deep creek. It looked like it could barely support a bicycle, let alone a truck. Hold on, John said, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The truck rattled onto the bridge. The metal groaned beneath them. For a heart-stopping moment, John thought it would give way, but they made it across, the wheels bumping back onto solid ground on the other side. Behind them, the SUV paused at the edge of the bridge. Then it started to cross. John stopped the truck and they all turned to watch. The bridge swayed under the heavier vehicle. Metal screamed. And then, with a final groan, the center of the bridge collapsed. The SUV plunged into the creek below, disappearing with a splash. That won't stop them for long, Lyra said, but it gives us time. John put the truck back in gear, and they continued west, toward the mountains, toward what they hoped would be safety, but all of them knew this was just the beginning. The cabin was small but sturdy, nestled among tall pine trees in the Colorado mountains. John pulled his truck to a stop and turned off the engine. After driving through the night, they had finally reached their destination. They were all tired, but they were safe, at least for now. No one will find us here, John said as they stepped out of the truck. The morning air was cool and smelled of pine. My brother Paul and I were the only ones who knew about this place. Kathy looked around, her sheriff's eyes taking in every detail. It's perfect. No close neighbors, good sight lines, only one road in. Lyra seemed to glow in the morning light, her silvery skin reflecting the sun. She held her cube carefully in her hands. It was pulsing weakly now, the blue light dimmer than before. The cube is losing power, she said with worry. I need to work on it right away. Inside, the cabin was dusty but otherwise in good condition. There was a main room with a stone fireplace, a small kitchen, and 2 bedrooms. Old hunting trophies hung on the walls, deer and elk that Paul had hunted years ago. John showed Lyra to the main table where she could work on her communication device. Kathy started making coffee in the kitchen while John brought in their bags and supplies. We should be safe here for a while, John said, but those things will keep looking for us. They're called Vrex, Lyra explained as she laid out pieces of her broken device next to the cube. They're mechanical beings created to serve as soldiers and assassins. My Uncle Drav has many of them under his control. How many do you think are on Earth? Kathy asked, bringing cups of coffee for herself and John. Maybe 5 or 6, Lyra said. They would have come in a small scout ship designed to avoid detection by your planet's defense systems. John sat down across from Lyra. What exactly are you trying to build? A subspace communicator, Lyra said, her delicate fingers working with the small pieces. If I can get it working, I can send a message to my father's fleet. They can extract just before more Vrex arrive. And how long will that take? John asked. Lyra looked up, her strange eyes serious. I don't know. The parts were damaged in the crash. I need to repair them with materials from your world, which aren't made for this kind of technology. For the next 2 days, they settled into a routine. Lyra worked constantly on her device, taking breaks only to eat and sleep. John and Kathy took turns keeping watch outside, though there was no sign of the Vrex or anyone else. On the evening of the 3rd day, John was looking through some old boxes his brother had stored in the cabin. He found photo albums, fishing gear, and a locked metal case. Using a screwdriver, he managed to open the case. Inside was a journal and some papers. They belonged to Linda, his late wife. John was shocked. Why would Paul have Linda's journal? He sat down and began to read. Hours. Later, Lyra found him still sitting there, the journal open in his hands. John, she said softly, are you all right? John looked up, his eyes red from reading. It's Linda's journal. My wife was an astronomer at the university. Everyone thought she was chasing impossible theories. They laughed at her. But she was right. All along. Right about what? Lyra asked, sitting beside him. about visitors from other worlds. John showed her some pages from the journal. They contained drawings of ships that looked similar to Navari vessels and notes about strange signals from deep space. She tracked unusual objects in our solar system for years. Objects that moved in ways that defied our physics. She was observing our scout ships, Lyra said, looking at the drawings with surprise. We've been monitoring Earth for decades. There's more, John said. He showed her a page with a familiar symbol drawn on it, the same symbol that appeared on Lyra's cube. She found this symbol in ancient cave paintings and on ruins around the world. She believed your people had visited Earth in the distant past. Lyra touched the drawing gently. She was right. We came to Earth thousands of years ago, during our early exploration period. We left monitoring stations and observation posts. Some of your ancient people saw us and recorded what they saw. John closed the journal. Linda died trying to prove this. She had a heart attack while on an expedition to find more evidence. Everyone said she was wasting her life on fantasy. She wasn't, Lyra said. She was brilliant and brave. A noise from outside made them both look up. Kathy was running toward the cabin from her watch position in the trees. They found us, she said as she burst through the door. 2 black SUVs coming up the road. John grabbed his hunting rifle, though he knew it would do little against the wrecks. How far? About 5 minutes out, Kathy said, checking her gun. Lyra hurried to the table where her device was laid out. I'm close to finishing the communicator. I just need a few more minutes. We'll try to buy you time, John said. He and Kathy moved to the windows, looking out at the road that led to the cabin. Soon they saw the SUVs approaching, moving slowly up the dirt road. When they were about 100 yards away, they stopped. 4 figures got out, all looking like the men in black suits, but moving with the telltale mechanical precision of the wrecks. They're spreading out, Kathy said, trying to surround. Yes? Behind them, Lyra was working frantically, connecting the last pieces of her device to the cube. The blue light pulsed stronger now. Responding to her touch, one of the wrecks stepped forward and called out in a flat voice, "Come out, Princess." Lyra, your uncle offers you one chance to surrender. Your human friends will be spared if you come with us now. Don't listen to them, John said to Lyra. They'll kill us all anyway. I know, Lyra said, not looking up from her work. Wrecks cannot be trusted. The lead Vrex waited for a response. When none came, it signaled to the others. They began to approach the cabin from different directions, moving with inhuman speed. They're coming in, Kathy said, aiming her gun at the nearest one. Almost there, Lyra muttered, making a final connection. The cube glowed brightly, then shot a beam of blue light upward, passing straight through the cabin roof without damaging. It's working. I've sent the signal. The Vrex outside saw the beam of light. They rushed forward, no longer trying to be stealthy. One kicked in the front door, its human disguise now partly melted away to reveal the metal body underneath. Kathy fired her gun, hitting it in the face. The bullet bounced off, but the impact made the Vrex stumble back slightly. John swung a heavy iron poker from the fireplace, striking another Vrex that was climbing through a window. Like before, it did little damage, but slowed the creature. Down, how long until help arrives? John shouted to Lyra. I don't know, she called back. My father's nearest ship could be days away. The Vrex were inside now, their red eyes glowing in the dim cabin. Lyra stood tall, holding her cube before her like a shield. John and Kathy moved to stand beside her, all three backed against the far wall. It's over, Princess, the lead Vrex said. Your signal is too weak to reach your father's fleet. No one is coming to save you. Just then, the cabin began to shake. A deep humming sound filled the air. The Vrex looked up, confused. You're wrong, Lyra said, a smile spreading across her face. They were already here. A blinding light flooded through the windows. The roof of the cabin seemed to disappear, revealing a massive ship hovering above them. It was beautiful and terrifying, made of what looked like crystal and metal, far larger than any aircraft John had ever seen. The Vrex tried to run, but beams of blue light shot down from the ship, freezing them in place. Then the same light surrounded John, Kathy, and Lyra, lifting them gently off the floor. My father sent a stealth ship to find me, Lyra explained as they rose toward the vessel above. They've been searching since my pod crashed. As they were lifted into the ship, John looked down at the cabin growing smaller below. He thought of Linda and her journal of how she had been right all along. Now he was seeing proof with his own eyes, living the discovery she had spent her life searching for. Inside the ship, they were greeted by tall beings with silvery skin like Lyra's. They bowed to her with respect. "Princess," one said, "your father will be overjoyed to know you're safe." Lyra turned to John and Kathy. "These are my people. You'll be safe here." John looked around at the magnificent interior of the ship with its crystal walls and strange technology. What happens now? Lyra took his hand. Now everything changes. For you, for Earth, the secret is out. Humans are not alone in the universe. And as the ship rose higher, leaving Earth behind, John knew that nothing would ever be the same again.